Hey everyone, this is Christian Karasevich, and you're going to be watching Social Chatter. We're basically covering social media news, social media trends, as well as some tools that we've discovered to help your business leverage social media marketing to drive sales, to generate new leads, to drive website traffic, and so on. So we'll be joined here in a second. I'm just getting this set up, but we're going to have tonight. We're going to have Nick Rishwain on. We're also going to have a special guest. We're going to have Chris Bear on as well. So just bear with us. In the meantime, this is going to be live on facebook.com/socialchefs. And it's also going to be live on Huzza. And if you have any questions during the show, you can post them on the Facebook page. Or you can also head to Twitter. You can tweet me at CKROKS, at Social Chefs, at Nick J. Rishwain, at BAIERMAN. So that's Chris Bearman. And then also use the hashtag Social Chatter. We'll be responding to those. So 1 second. Although we've got some really great topics to talk about tonight. So I'll have everyone on here in a second. Okay, so that is going to do it. So we've got everything ready to go. I'm bringing on Nick and I'm bringing on Chris here. So bear with me 1 second.
Hello.
What's going on, Nick? How you doing?
Doing good. How about you?
Doing pretty good.
Doing a lot better than I was last week, that's for sure.
Yeah, you did. I got to say, you did a fantastic job last week. I know you were sick, weren't feeling well.
Still holding on, but I do feel a lot better.
So I invited Chris. I'm not sure if he got the invite. Oh, there he goes. Cool.
There he is.
All right, cool.
How you doing, Chris?
Good, man. Hi, Christian. How are you?
Doing great.
Good to see you, Chris.
Hey, man. Nick, how you feeling?
I'm still recuperating, but I feel a lot better than last week when we did this.
That's good.
Yeah, I feel a lot better.
Well, I've already gone through kind of like just a quick intro with everyone, as far as what the show is about. If you guys want to introduce yourself, your Twitter handles into the chat, that'd be fantastic. So Nick, let's start with you.
You want me to insert my Twitter into the chat, or
just a quick intro, for viewers?
A quick intro. Okay, yeah. I'm Nick Rishwain, and I am co-host with Christian now for I'm thinking it's about 25 episodes, or 23 or 24 episodes.
A lot.
In the day by day, I am a vice president of Expert Witness Marketing Company, and I also do another live video show called Legal Tech Live, which we're starting the new season here soon. That's about it for me.
Cool. And tonight's guest, we have Chris Bear. Chris.
Hey, thank you so much for joining. Allowing me to join. Go by the handle on Bearman. I'm a advertising creative by trade. Lover of tech and social, and Go by Bearman on every channel. Then I add the 2 1s on Snapchat, so it's Bearman11. I'm also the developer, creator, and chief spy at #spy. And so I have to thank you guys now that I'm on screen in person for sharing and talking about #spy a few weeks ago before the new year. It's a huge help.
And there's one other item that you're involved with too. Do you want to tell us about the movie that you're making?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, there's a few other things. I thought you were talking about Skepticals.
No, not the Skepticals, but
yeah, I'm also pretty involved in the OCD community. My daughter has OCD, and so my family's been dealing with it for about 4 years, and making a film called Unstuck. I was actually, just before we got on here, I was watching an edit where I'm on the final stages of getting the film complete, and then we hope to release it, have it done in the spring, but kind of release it probably early summer and start doing the festival circuit. So it'll be a short documentary on kids with OCD and how kids are kind of experts once they kind of get the tool to fight it and beat it. It's not a story about kids in crisis. It's a story about kids who have overcome.
Very good.
Excellent. Are we live on Facebook now too, Christian?
We should be live, actually. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go check that out.
I changed it up this time, actually. Instead of going live on Facebook with everyone on, I actually went live before that, and then just kind of gave a brief introduction about the show, and then brought everybody on. So
excellent. Okay.
I figured it helped with some of the the confusion that always happens with all the noise and whatnot. So you've got Facebook in the background, and then you've got this going on as well. So
right.
Very cool. Well, Chris, it's fantastic to have you on the show. I guess I love your tool, and I actually want to talk about that a little more as we talk about some of the Twitter updates for the some of the Twitter updates from this past week. Just because I know your tool focuses on Twitter, and I think that it's something that at least in my opinion, I'm like, okay, where's Twitter going with everything?
And we do have a news story about that tonight as well.
Yeah.
Which would lead us to believe where are they going if they're getting rid of a buy button, a commerce button? How do you? Am I getting ahead of myself?
We'll talk about that one in a second. Yeah, it is kind of weird. I'm not really sure what they're doing here, but
meanwhile, the Twitter president's about to take office. So at the same time, you go, "What's going on over there?" You go, "Hey, the U.S. government is the biggest driver of Twitter at the moment, keeping it relevant, really, and it'll be relevant for the next 4 years as long as he's around."
Absolutely.
Do you want me to jump right in here, Christian, into our first topic today?
Yeah, sure. I'm actually just trying to get my lighting done because every time I move my hands, it casts a big shadow.
I want you to look pretty on the replay. So,
okay, there we go.
Good job on that. So we have, and we're leaving the Facebook story, as I recall. We're going to leave that as the final story, right? Because it's kind of a big story, but not not really a business related story. So our first story then today is, I guess I wasn't jumping too far ahead here. It is Twitter finally doing away with their buy button, which might be a surprise to some of our audience, including myself, that we weren't even aware of the buy button. And we use Twitter, and I use Twitter all day, every day. So I don't know if either of you had this experience too. I may have seen it before, but it's pretty much news to me that this ever existed. So they had a buy button, which would allow users to purchase items from within a tweet. Mm-hmm. This is an article from Recode. And the shutdown comes 8 months after Twitter's head of commerce left the company, and more than a year after the company disbanded the group focusing on the buy button product. So there was at one point a group who was focused on this buy button product. They were gone over a year ago. Their head of commerce left 8 months ago, and now they're getting rid of the buy button. The button initiative launched in 2014 at a time when they were trying to build their e-commerce capabilities, and it didn't take off. And which is why I say it's not so much a surprise to me that they did away with it. It was sort of a surprise to me that it even existed. Thoughts, Chris?
It's funny, as you were reading this, I remember 2 years ago, I was working at a company called eBay Enterprise, and we were creating all these decks for clients. Like, what's the buzzword of the year going to be in social? And the word was e-commerce, and it was about how everybody's getting into e-commerce, and rich pins were going to lead to buys on Pinterest, and Facebook was adding a buy button and allowing you to be shop there, and it was all about e-commerce. And it's funny how it's kind of, I mean, I guess Facebook's changed a little bit with the shopping tool, but it's kind of just gone by the wayside. Now they're all about live. And I knew about the buy tool, but I don't know if anybody really ever used it. And I certainly, like you, Nick, I use it all the time, and I never remember seeing a buy thing pop up as an option for a promoted tweet or even anything in my feed.
And that's what's surprising to me.
Never took off.
Excuse me. With the promoted tweets, right? They're now the third thing you see, the third tweet that you see in your on your homepage, and yet I don't remember seeing anything that said buy now or buy. So, Christian, what are your thoughts?
I remember the buy button. I thought that it was very useful, and I worked in e-commerce. I worked for an e-commerce company for about 10 plus years. We were always looking when social was coming out, we were always looking at ways that we could, sell products through these channels. I think that the part that surprised me, I guess, the most is that, Chris, you touched on this a minute ago. I think that the buy button was something like everybody's like, oh, I want to sell stuff. But then like, for some reason, everybody totally shifted directions. And I don't really know why like that never caught on, because it makes a lot of sense. I mean, to be able to have a buy button on Twitter, or to have Facebook or wherever you want to sell something, I mean, it was a pretty seamless process.
I have a small theory about that it was still just easier for, let's just use like Levi's to just post a link, or just do a, click here and buy the jeans just as easy for them, less steps than it was to go through Twitter or even Facebook. So I think it was easier for them to just drive people to their site. That's my guess.
So you mean that you putting a link right in the text of the tweet rather than having a button? Yeah, could be.
Yeah, like promote your, let's just say 501 jeans. Promote the 501 jeans in a tweet, and I see it and I want them, and I click and I know I'm going to go to Levi's site, buy from there, as opposed to be like, oh, I got to go through Twitter and then I have to give Twitter my money and credit card information, and that could have been it. Just UI wise, it could have just been a pain in the butt for users, and easier for brands to just say, just go, strong e-commerce brands to just throw it right, go right into the homepage or, right into their site they own.
So I think you made a really good point. Actually, I think it probably stems from the fact that businesses were not getting people back to their website, because at that point, when somebody makes a checkout, when somebody checks out, for instance, on Twitter, you don't have those other touch points to like add other things to the cart, for instance, like a recommended product, or, hey, you had this in your cart last time. Do you want to buy it now? I don't know. I kind of wish they would keep it around though. I'm not really sure what Twitter's doing with this. I mean, they're getting rid of the buy button, but hey, they're keeping the donate button. What exactly is Twitter then, I guess, at that point?
Yeah, is it a charitable organization or a news organization? I mean, I think it's a news organization. I think Chris actually alluded to it in the beginning that for the next 4 years they can probably, depending on how continuous our new commander-in-chief's use is, it is a great way for a celebrity or somebody in power to communicate with their audience, just one to many. And are they now a news organization? Because certainly what happens on Twitter does make the news. And if they're not doing commerce, are they, and this would apply to businesses, enterprises who are thinking about doing ads on Twitter. What value, what type of business are you going to be using to promote through Twitter? Or what value would a Twitter campaign be to your business? And I think that's something that really needs to be thought about.
I mean, and that's actually a really good point, because, really at one point, a lot of people were, people on Twitter, like everybody saying, hey, don't spam the heck out of your audience. Don't just, queue up a whole bunch of like links, be active. But then it's like, well, you know, at this point, like if they're going to get rid of that, I mean, you're still kind of encouraging people to do that.
Right.
So,
And I find it's a great place to be active and to really engage with community and with friends and colleagues and potential customers. I find it's fantastic for that.
It's my favorite platform. I mean, before Snapchat, it was my favorite platform, and I think it's in my experience on Snapchat in the last year has just propelled me back into Twitter hard because I love it. And it's kind of dying, and suddenly I have a whole new community that I'm interacting with, and a whole new way to look at Twitter. So it's still one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I'm actually, as you were talking, Nick, I'm on my Twitter account. I'm looking actually like to see how I might pay for something. So I'm in my settings, and I don't even see anything that like allows me to add a credit card number. So I have no idea how you would pay. There's cards and shipping. Yeah, so you have to save a payment method or register a credit card.
Yeah, they had actually, I think it was Stripe integration on Twitter at one point.
Yeah, and I guess that's the other thing the article said. It was like Stripe was going to be, they thought, were the most affected by this elimination of the buy button, because I guess Stripe's biggest brand was Twitter.
Yeah, and here's the thing: I don't want to get too much into this, but like I don't know, I don't really think Stripe is really that like great of a. I mean, it's kind of like, oh, it's like a Me Too service. I mean, people are going to go check out. Like you've got Visa checkout buttons now. You've got you got PayPal, for instance. PayPal is getting into the game of, hey, all you got to do is get a custom domain that they give you, and somebody can send you money. I mean, you've got Snapcash. Like you've got all these other tools. Why do you need Stripe, for instance, at that point?
Yeah, and it was nothing. I don't know. I just look at like.
Oh, and you had Square.
It was nothing. The buy buttons on Twitter just didn't change the game enough to make people want to try it, right? I mean, if it was still easier for me to go to Amazon to buy a book, why would I go use Twitter to buy it when it's like didn't change my behavior so drastically, or wasn't so cool that I was like, oh, awesome.
So do you think that they need? So let's ask this one question and then we'll move on to the next one. Do you think that they need other buttons? And I'm sort of alluding to something that we'll talk about next week, but they have the donate button. They're getting rid of the buy button. If somebody's sharing links, for instance, and so forth, and putting that into Twitter, like, do they need some sort of like call to action button that sticks out?
Probably so. I think any call to action button that sticks out, because again, that goes back to, oh, they're terminating the buy button. I didn't know they had one. In my mind, that's what it goes back to.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because the other thing they also used to have as well, they used to have an email sign up option that you could run, and I thought that was fantastic because it would, it was one click, it would grab your email from your profile that you have on Twitter, and then you were able to capture an email address to build your email list. And
I think they're going hard on live. Their partnerships with the NFL. As I was talking to you guys on looking up my Snapcash, they have a live feed going on with some fights. They're I think they're all pushing live. And Nick, you mentioned this earlier. I think they're branding themselves as news, even more so with journalists and the world being able to possibly have a conversation with the most powerful guy in the world, and he might retweet you or comment at you. Twitter's probably figuring out ways to capitalize on that.
I would hope they're finding ways
better and easier responses back and forth. I don't know if commerce and buying is going to be as big a thing.
Yeah.
How do I distribute news? How do we be more like a PR app?
It goes back to the microblogging idea that they originated with. So, yeah, I think we beat this one to death. Should we move on to our next topic?
Yeah, sure. What's next?
So, our next topic is the ad groups upgrade for Pinterest. An ad group. So, as of January 11th, all new partners creating campaigns for the first time will use this campaign structure. An ad group is a container for promoted pins, targeting, budget start and end dates, and bids are set for each group, so you have more flexibility and control over how to run your campaigns. With ad groups, you can test performance against various targets and objectives without the need to create multiple campaigns. So this doesn't tell me much. It seemed to be, and this may be because I am not an active Pinterest user.
So, but
can you tell me what's changing? Either of you tell me what's changing on Pinterest if either of you are active Pinterest users.
Yeah, I could actually go. I'll take this one. So basically, what was happening before with Pinterest was that whenever you would run, when you wanted to run any sort of campaign, you didn't have basically a container to put all your promoted pins in. So what would end up happening is you'd end up creating a whole bunch of campaigns. If you wanted to change certain things, you wanted to run some A/B testing, you'd have to create multiple campaigns just to make these adjustments. With this new update, they're basically creating groups that you can put all of your promoted pins in. And the benefit is then that you have targeting, budgeting, start and end dates, bids are set for each ad group. So they're set for each container. So you've got a lot more flexibility basically when you're running your campaigns. This to me looks like they stole a page right out of Facebook's playbook.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
It sounds very similar to running Facebook ads in my book. You think it's got to be a good move if it sounds like a good move because it sounds more like how you structure it more than anything is what's changing here.
Yeah, that's really the main thing, honestly. And but I think, in my opinion, I think it's a great move for them, to get more people on Pinterest.
Excellent.
Hearing that article made me actually just dive into information about Pinterest because it's not a platform that I use a lot anyway. I know it's a lot of long tail content, but I had no idea that their corner on the 25 to 34 market is. And women, the purchase buyers, and is almost on par with Facebook. And then, the CEO was saying that they have a bigger, tighter grasp of audience of that younger women audience than Snapchat, Instagram, and what was the other one? And even not Vine, that's gone, but Snapchat and Instagram, which is huge. I didn't realize there's 75 billion pins right now.
Wow.
And apparently they have spent the last 2 years developing their ad tool, getting the analytics, getting the data right. So really, I guess this year is going to be the push for investment of, and the run for ad dollars.
Yeah, Pinterest, I actually want to say, I think they're going to kind of be like the dark horse here because, a lot of people are talking about Facebook. They're talking about Twitter. They're talking about Instagram. They're talking, about Snapchat. I'm seeing a little bit of, waning interest in Snapchat a little bit. And then you have Pinterest, and a lot of people aren't talking about it. So,
yeah.
They're making some good moves. I mean, essentially, I think what's happening here is, like Twitter, for instance, is kind of starting to go back to their roots and kind of starting to, say, hey, let's do this right. I think Pinterest is doing the same thing. I don't think they had plans to monetize it really like this, but they kind of have to if they want to compete with the other channels.
Yeah, they're going to have to go at it in a different way. I just I don't see that platform as being something where I'd want to go live on Pinterest, or it's not for immediacy news. It's about we were trying to sell clients on it. The whole reason was that it was like your stuff is going to stick around. So this is the place to put recipes. This is the place to put craft ideas, and they search so well for it, and I guess they've also built a search tool to allow you to search visuals, which is pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. So go with it.
They've got some cool stuff, and they even started adding this new showcase feature, where if you go to somebody's account, they basically can have certain items on the front, also cool. Like a carousel, and you can actually have, from a selling standpoint, you can actually put some items that people can purchase in there as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. And one of our regular followers who's watching us on Facebook Live right now, Melissa G, had she's always interested in what's available for moms and things like that. And it sounds like what you gave us in the demographic information there, Chris, is that if you're selling to the 25 to 34-year-old female demographic, then Pinterest is a place you are probably going to want to spend some time.
I think it's a place that, we were talking before about why the buy button didn't work on Twitter. I can see it totally working on Pinterest because it feels more like a catalog. a brand might be able to share more, and they have video too. Like I was reading too, they allow like longer form videos. So it seems like a more of a catalog-y place where you could and be more convinced to buy.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I'll have to spend more time with Pinterest. I think I even deleted the app because I noticed that I was not in it very long. But certainly for there are types of businesses, as you mentioned, food and beverage and crafts and things like that probably could do very well over there. Our next story takes us back to an app that Chris and I both enjoy a great deal. This brings us to Snapchat. And the story here out of Adweek is Snapchat is now pitching brands on sequential video ads, letting advertisers run longer creative ads. So Snapchat is encouraging brands to run longer video, buying bigger packages of ads. According to the sources, Snap has started pitching brands on a new type of ad package called sequenced messaging, or sequential advertising. So they say, think about taking a 30-second asset and getting it cropped up into 3 10-second spots by a 3-pack of back-to-back ads and tell a sequential story. So for those of us users who don't appreciate ads, this is probably not the greatest news, because it means you're going to get longer ads in between. Now, I'm assuming you'll be able to swipe out of that. Part of me is against this idea because what I've found very interesting in the Snapchat ads, the ones that I do watch, is how creative they're forced to be in a short window. So now if they go to the longer window, my feeling is this goes kind of back to the captive audience advertising that
Right.
that it doesn't seem to make sense for the platform. Although I can imagine that brands will appreciate this. I will say from personal experience, those ads that I do watch, which I do on occasion just to see how they're doing it in 10 seconds, the one that has caught me, and I'm ashamed to say it, the one that has caught my attention more than once is the Intuit one with DJ Khaled, mostly because I'm wondering what the hell they're doing in this ad and why. But I remember it. It's either TurboTax or it's Intuit or TurboTax, one of the two.
TurboTax, I think.
Yeah. And I'm like, what is going on here? Why is this even, what is the point of this? And it sticks. So I'm not sure what I think about these longer ads or telling a greater story in ads, because I've thought it was pretty interesting to see how creative advertisers can get in a 10-second snap. Chris?
First thing is, I don't know about you guys, but I get a lot of ads, and I don't know if that's the fact that I'm in New York, but I feel like I'm getting them all the time. And I've noticed too that the brands have quickly caught on to the fact that if they don't do something like in the first 2 seconds, slam down a can, spray something to you, have somebody in your face saying something that makes you go, whoa, that I immediately swipe. So they're really trying to, like, I don't know, get creative is hard. It's like jump in your face. And then I've also noticed that some of them are trying to mimic what's going on. Like, you think it's a story. Like, it doesn't look like an ad at all, except for the little ad button, but it looks like somebody's, like, got the bad camera to their face and they're playing with emojis. And then suddenly you realize, oh, it's an ad. But to the point of sequential, I don't know. I don't use the platform for that, and I think that they're swipeable. I mean, I would love to create Snapchat ads, but at least from the brand side, they're learning how many seconds it takes for somebody to swipe, whereas in a TV spot, there's no way to tell.
Yeah.
So at least I guess the brands are getting better ideas of real feedback. But I remember the story 3 weeks ago or maybe 2 months ago, that people were swiping in the average of 2.5 and 2.8 seconds. and the ads are a big failure. And I think that the Discover section hasn't really worked out either. And I'm wondering if it's a better place for, instead of trying to jump in my face, they need to provide a piece of information to make me do the swipe up, swipe down.
Right.
To get the article, to get, it's almost like they're better served to just putting a piece of like a headline, 10 words up for 10 seconds. So I'm forced to read it and then swipe up and down if I want to know more. Like a quieter approach might be better. I don't see how just cutting up into 3 sections and it'll be 3 swipes in a row to me.
Yeah. I think probably for most times I'm going to see that as 3 swipes in a row, unless they get really creative in that, or unless I'm wondering what it is and it's bizarre to me, then I might go, what point are they trying to make? Christian, what are your thoughts?
I have to say, I love the idea of being able to buy a bundle of ads and then tell a story over time. I also look at it like this: like you could essentially use Snapchat Spectacles, for instance, if you want to create your ads there. For instance, kind of have a neat little experience. Like if I'm, for instance, let's say I'm a sports team, for instance. I think that this could be very cool to use. Maybe have, maybe they film like 10 seconds and then, maybe like, let's say it's hockey, first period, second period, third period, you got some kind of cool ad that's tied to something going on. And that's it. I like the fact though, that this pushes people to get creative with what they're doing. The fact that, you can create the longest ad in the world, but hey, if your ad kind of bombs and people aren't aren't interested in it, I mean, you basically just wasted your money. But hey, if you do the first, the second, the third, I think you can build up to getting people hooked. That at least is where I see the value in this.
Yeah, I think you could be really creative with this from brand advertising perspective. I think it would be fun to create these longer ads, building it into more of a story. I will say this, the ad that had probably the greatest impact on me, because I remember it 15, 16, 17 years later, was E-Trade Super Bowl ad that was 30 seconds of a monkey banging on a drum of some sort, and they say, we just wasted $2 million of our own dollars. What are how are you spending your money, or how are you using your money, investing your money? And that was so brilliant that I think that kind of 10-second a 10-second ad similar to that is what would sell. And that would keep me interested.
If I was negotiating something on Snapchat, I would tell them, I'm going to buy these sequential ads, but I want to break on a lens and I want a price break on geo filters. Because to me, that's where your thing is. To me, I love brands. To me, Snapchat is brand as prop. How can somebody put in my face like a taco? How can we use this creative geo filter in a way that like has a microphone, and I can, like that breaking news one over New Year's was awesome. People were using it as a way to tell like they were news anchors. And I would be trying to negotiate cheaper ad rates on the lenses, and lenses definitely, and filters, and because you already probably, as if you're a big brand, you already have the TV spot that you can work on. But I think that's where you should, if I was running a brand, I would say we need to save up money for the lenses because they're so cool and they're so fun and people play with them. And that's where I see Snapchat's ad audience being totally different. And that's where they I don't know, they should figure out how to monetize that. The voice changers and all that stuff. I mean, imagine you could be the voice of Mayhem from Geico. That's one of the filters. Turns you into Mayhem, and suddenly you're that guy's voice. I mean, or you're that tonality. People can tell stories as that brand. I just think that's where it is. I think totally new and different.
Yeah, I think that and the geo filter, like you said, the lenses and the geo filters are where companies should be spending their money. Bank of America did a lens last year that was really kind of strange. It was a llama or a donkey or something, but it was fun to play with. And I saw some funny ads, and you do see Bank of America. So I think that is probably probably better use than attempt at the captive audience by throwing the ads in between what you're in between stories.
You know, I think, Chris, I think that you made a really interesting point just a second ago about tapping into those two features there. I think the part there that I think is really valuable, I think, is the fact that by the way, Nick just dropped. I'm not sure if his camera, he had a bad connection or whatnot, but the part I think that is really valuable is the fact that they have to figure out how to monetize that, because you could actually get into maybe running an ad, for instance, that drives somebody to use your geo filter, for instance, or what were the other things you mentioned actually?
Yeah, the geo filters in the lens. I didn't even think of that. Like, run a video that says like tomorrow we're going to be doing, or run a lens and then 3 days later the ad features people that use the lens. I mean,
that's cool.
Would be wild. I mean, and that's something that I would, I got to write that down and sell that tomorrow. Yeah. But like I love video. I think I don't know. There's just different disruption to me, and treating every new platform like, oh, we're going to treat it like a TV spot. This is going to be vertical. I mean, the story about Facebook adding ads in between live streams was like, oh, great. So this is a TV spot. This is a TV break now, commercial break. Like and then Snapchat invents this AI thing, and playing with lenses is like so different. And brands just got to figure out how to do that and do that more. That's my favorite thing about it. I mean, I also, as we're talking, I'm going like they have a longer game plan than what we're thinking. So let's think out 6 months from now. Where are they going to take this tool by May of this year? And that's when maybe the 3 sequential ads will make sense. Like if they do add a live component, or they do something that makes it the dramatic, like there's apparently a huge redesign that's starting to roll out. How do they, how is the 3 sequential thing going to work out with this new simpler UX and UI that they're working out with? And, will they add ads in the chats, group chats or things like that? I don't know. But like
part of me,
where are they going to go with it?
Yeah. Here's the thing. Like part of me is like, talking about the TV ads, you got me like thinking on this as well. Like part of me is just like, I wish a lot of these companies would just quit with the ads, because like they're just doing them exactly the same as like everything else has always been. Like shit, it's just like, oh, let's treat it as a TV spot. But then like, hey, let's put like, let's redesign our tool and like let's potentially put ads in there. Like, it's like you're setting up all these roadblocks to keep people from the information, to keep them from like, being creative on the platform and doing something, because it's like they can't do anything until, without like being interrupted every, X amount of seconds, with some sort of ad. So I love the idea of this. I really kind of wish we would try to figure out a new way to monetize these.
I mean, from the brand and the platform perspective, the platform goes, okay, we can do, the brand has all these assets, and the platform, Snapchat goes, okay, or Instagram goes, okay, we can it'll be like the thing you have, it'll just be in the vertical format or a different format. And they go, okay, we can plump down $70,000 for that, because we already spent the money on the TV and we just have to reform the content. So it's an easier get and money-making thing. I just don't think it's as innovative. And, we'll see if it's really playing. I mean, I don't know who's watching anything I don't know what ads are effective on social media. I just feel like the more interactive you can get with your audience, it's not about getting the eyeballs. It's like like I said, I think we're moving. If I had to throw a theory out there, we're moving into the idea of brands as props. What do you stand for, and how can I use it in my story? The thing that comes back to me, Nick was pointing about the llamas, the story that, remember back in May, they had that Red Nose Day? That's the first time I realized that, oh my God, the potential of Snapchat or AI and lens technology and facial recognition with allowing your brand to play with things was like, oh wow, this is totally new. I've never thought of it this way.
I would add one caveat to what Chris is saying here, is that buying in packages, getting those advertisers or those brands to make bigger purchases pre-IPO might really look better on the books.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that is the, we tried it, it didn't work out, but now we're public and we'll get rid of the 30-second ads. I don't know.
Right.
Actually,
That's true.
I actually think that's a good thing. I think that what they're probably going to do is, let's just talk about stealing pages out of a playbook. So let's talk about like Snapchat real quick on this. So pre-IPO, let's say they're going to, like right now they're running ads, they're running, their normal ads. They're introducing this whole bundle thing. They're encouraging people to go buy into them. You still though have the same question hanging over, which Facebook kind of had as well, which was, hey, do you actually make any money from your ads? Do they actually work? Let's go back to Facebook. Facebook, when they first IPO'd, it tanked. People were like, hey, your ads are not going to work. They're not going to make any money. And what's happened now? They started generating massive amounts of revenue. So I think this actually puts Snapchat almost like square in the target, so that when they do IPO, they have something that they can build off of.
Yeah.
Because you do have to generate revenue for shareholders. So
absolutely, you do have to. All right, should we get to our big story tonight?
That just goes to the point that Christian and I were just talking about how where are they going to be? They're launching something now because they're going to be somewhere else in March or April or May, and if the IPO is going to be in March, from what I've read, it makes sense. Gives them a month or two to pump up the numbers, and then look how much we're valued.
And there'll be news and people will be generating a whole bunch of money, and then say, hey, I want to get in on this. I want to start doing, running ads on, on Snapchat. And hey, heck, for all we know, maybe they'll do it like this. Maybe they'll say, hey, the 30-second ads, we'll pitch those to the, the big companies, but hey, we got to have something else for the small business owner, for instance, that wants to also tap into Snapchat. And hey, we'll give them, the standard ads that they could run that won't cost them an arm and a leg, for instance.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into our big story for tonight. We got about 10 minutes to do this one because I'm sure there is a tool or two that Christian's going to share with us. So this is introducing Facebook, the Facebook Journalism Project. So, and they announced this day.
The other day, I think.
The other day. Okay. I don't see a date on this post. That's why today we're announcing a new program to establish stronger ties between Facebook and the news industry. We'll be collaborating with news organizations to develop products, learning from journalists about ways we can be a better partner, and working with publishers and educators on how we can equip people with the knowledge they need to be informed readers in the digital age. So some of this, it's going to work in three ways. They're going to have collaborative development of news products. They're going to have training and tools for journalists, and they're going to have training and tools for everyone. So I think that third point goes to citizen journalists, which everybody now thinks that they can be because they've got live video in Facebook Live. And in fact, we've seen that several times now, where there's no need for me to go to see what CNN is doing because I've seen it already while I was at my desk at the office and saw it unfolding live through Periscope or Facebook or something like that. So that's the big item. And I think what this is, they're wanting to know how they can be a better partner here. But I really think this is them continuing to dive into the news industry and take market share from old media. Chris?
And also figure out, to me, ways that they can continue to be the hub of everything. News, live, the live platform is just going to explode. And, I imagine that by the end of this year, you're going to see the 5 or 6 o'clock newscast simulcasted on Facebook Live with ads from Facebook. I mean, I don't know, Nick, if you saw the thing that's Sandra Santorino did earlier this week on Snap It Forward, but there was this thing called, there's a tool called BeLive.tv or something, which basically allows you to almost like Blab and what Huzza does, but it does it with Facebook Live, integrates you to do multiple people on a chat, like you're doing a poll show on CNN, like Crossfire or something. It was like, I felt like I was watching TV. And people are designing sets now. for Facebook, it's so let's journalists need to be here. People need to. Sorry, that's my cat. People need to. People want to. They're on the site more. How can more eyeballs get there? It just makes sense that Facebook would want to figure out better tools for journalists and possibly dangle a carrot of subscriptions or incremental revenue stream. But I think this is how do we keep more eyeballs on our platform?
I think this is probably a reaction to the fake news that they were criticized for during the election. Facebook took some heavy heat on what fake news was perpetuated on Facebook. So I think this is a way for them to bring in actual journalists and have these journalists doing some work in essentially in-house, even if it's not in-house. Christian, what are your thoughts?
So there's a lot to this article. I will say that if you initially look at it and you're like, oh, hey, it's just talking about journalists, like there's so much more to this. I think that, I kind of want to break down these little pieces. So I think that, for starters, they said, hey, like they definitely want to combat the whole fake news thing. That's the first thing. But to do that, they also want to introduce new products and new tools, new ways for the people who are responsible for that news to be able to have the right news, to have, in a way, I think, like sources, to give them different ways, kind of as Chris mentioned here with, it'll be essentially like watching the news, like a TV show, having different storytelling formats. So they are looking to, open this up for certain partners to use 360, the 360 products, so whether that's photos or videos, to then use the live product as well. Now, in addition to all of that, though, there's a lot of other really cool things with this. So if you go down to the part about the training and tools. So Facebook actually has these e-learning courses. They're actually opening these for journalists specifically. If you click on the link that's in that article, it takes you to a whole platform where you can, where journalists can actually get training, and they're looking to actually make a certificate program off of this as well. So that way it's something that people have to go through in a way to kind of say, hey, this person kind of probably knows what they're doing, how they're doing things, how they use Facebook, that sort of stuff, right?
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and then on top of that, they also have bought a tool called CrowdTangle, which was mentioned in this, but that's basically a tool to help surface stories and also to measure their social performance. So if I'm anyone tied into news, I'm able to, get the information like from this big main source without having to say, oh, hey, I saw my colleague share that, but hey, I didn't read the article because, hey, they shared it and I thought it was a good source, because I thought the person was credible. Right. So they're adding all of that. But then on top of this, they're also going to be tapping into Facebook's instant article feature as well. So they want people to use that as well to create different means of telling their story. Because with instant articles, you essentially can create how you want that message to come across. It's not just like, oh, it's a written blog post. Oh, it's a video. Oh, it's a slideshow. You can put all of that stuff into one article and then share that then with your audience. So I love this idea. At first I was like, oh, it's journalism. Nah. But I think there's a lot to this.
Yeah, my thought is that they're going, I mentioned it here in the comments, my thought is that they are going towards, when you mention a certification program, I think let's get Nick certified for Stockton, California, or the San Joaquin Valley. He's certified. We get him going around and doing interviews, and we get him going around when there's something that happened, and he's now a local reporter. Anybody can become a local contributor, and now Facebook is delivering local news and eliminating the need for a local news station. So they've got their own journalists working directly for them. That's what I would think that the long-term goal is here. They've now admitted that they're a media company, and I think this is just one more step in that direction.
Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, Christian, you were kind of piecing apart the article. There was a lot there, but also the idea of doing new storytelling formats sounded like there was some kind of way where they might be able to, like a new news organization might be able to feed me stories I'm interested in. Like if they knew I read the New York Times and I liked, articles on the weather, they could feed me more articles on global warming, and I could read 2 or 3 in a row. And it sounded like instant article bundles. like, or like allowed you to skim articles that you're interested in rather than having to jump through things. And that's going to be, on the journalist side, I wonder what, they're all putting up paywalls. So I wonder how this is going to, go through that. Have you heard of this site? Sorry, this is when I read the article, I was reading about this app called, a tool for next week, maybe. It's an app called Blendle.
No.
Blendle. And it is it's customized news tool. You can't really see it that well. I can't see it that well, but basically, it pulls in all interesting articles, and if you want to read it, it costs like 25 cents. Like, there's an article in Time on Zoe Saldana, and it's 25 cents. Article on Obama and, how, a review of him, 25 cents from the National Review. So the whole idea is that you pay for the
So
article.
that's actually really fascinating. I'm not sure how much I would actually, I will say this, I'm going to definitely put this on the list for next week because I think that it actually seems like a really cool idea. I don't know, I'll say this, I don't know how much I would pay for an article. Like, let's say it's 25 cents an article. I mean, that adds up. I could give a company, $10 a month, for instance, for, more access to content, or I can pay 25 cents an article. I don't know. It sounds to me almost like, remember how when you went to the library and you wanted to photocopy something, for people watching, you might not photocopy something now, you might, just search on Google for it, but you photocopied something and it was it was pretty expensive to copy a couple of pages out of a library book. And this kind of like reminds me of that, like, oh, hey, there's this higher, threshold pricing that they want to charge to read one article.
But in your feed, think about it. Like, I used to have a subscription to New York Times. So in my feed, I might have it. I could read an article from New York Times, BuzzFeed. I could also read something smaller, like in like a mental health publication, like The Mighty. So I can read all these things in my article. In my news feed right now, well, imagine if, because some of them are all random, because I'm reading what I want, maybe I would pay 99 cents or 10 cents an article. But maybe that's where they're going in the future, because if I'm a news organization, I'm going, wow, if I'm going to give Facebook all these things, how am I going to make money?
So actually, other thing Facebook is also looking to do, and this is, I said there's a ton of stuff in this article. There's actually a section under the emerging business models. Facebook actually is working with emerging business models, basically with different partners, to see about growing subscription funnels. So, my take of that is that, you have the New York Times, you have all the, Wall Street Journal. Instead of giving away that content for free, Facebook may be having some sort of I think that's what it is, a subscription model to, be able to tap into that, I think. So interesting stuff happening over on Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay, so Christian, we got a few minutes left here. You want to lead us through some tools?
Sure. And by the way, Chris, if you could, if you want to, just send me a link to that Blendle tool. I want to actually check that out. Make sure it works.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so tool number one we have for today, we have, and these are actually funny. I didn't do this on purpose, but we have Grammarly. That's the first tool. And drop a link in here. But basically what this tool is, and it's a pretty neat little tool. It basically is a browser extension. It also can be installed on your Mac or your PC. What Grammarly does is, if you're ever making, you know how you have like Microsoft Word, you have Google Docs. They don't really always, correct your information properly. You might have like, oh, I've got an extra space here, or I've got, using an incorrect word, or hey, I actually want to use a synonym, so I'm not writing the same thing over and over. So what Grammarly does is, basically, as you're writing things, whether it's a social media post, whether it's an ad, whether it is an email, a blog post, a Word document, it basically is scanning your information and identifying areas that you need to fix, whether it's, a spelling mistake, whether you have an extra space after a period, and so forth. So really neat little app. It's, it's a free app.
They had a booth at Social Media Day San Diego last year, and I think it was Grammarly, or maybe it was at Social Media Marketing World. I can't recall now. If not, it was one of their competitors. And I've heard one of our upcoming guests, Brian Fanzo, has actually implemented this. and he said that he has talked about the written word being a struggle for him, and that this has really helped him to improve his grammar on his written content.
And one thing that it kind of, one thing that really surprises me, I think, about this tool is, you're over there typing on your iPhone, for instance, and it's auto correcting things, right? But if you're typing stuff on your Mac, a lot of times, I don't think it's really auto correcting a lot of times. So, people, I also think because people have autocorrect, they're not really like varying the way they write things or the way they speak. And so, I think having something like this, I mean, it's free to use. You get a certain number of corrections for free, I think, but really cool tool to have, I think, in your toolbox. It helps make it more professional.
Yeah, I love it. I've noticed it slows down my computer a little bit, but it's worth it. I don't mind it at all, because I think it's really helping me, and it's much better than the native tools on Google or Microsoft Word. So I saw the ads. The ads are appearing all the time in front of YouTube, and that's what got me to click over. So I actually clicked on an ad because it was like, oh, this is so relevant to me.
Because you do a lot of copywriting, correct, Chris?
Yeah, and I got into copywriting because one of the reasons is because my grammar was terrible, and in advertising you just make up grammar. That's why we have one-word sentences all the time. But my wife would proofread documents, and she'd be like, "This is awful." So I've been trying to get better at my grammar, and this is really helping, and making my wife not have to edit so much.
And and I would say this. I mean, going back to what I mean a minute ago. I mean, when you're writing anything, I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. You want to, if you're a business, you want to look good. You want to make sure what you're talking about. But you also want to be able to convey that properly. Instead of using the wrong word, for instance. So really good little app to have.
Excellent. What's up next?
So up next, and this one actually is courtesy of last week's guest. Actually, this is actually courtesy of Vincent Orlick from last week. It's Snapdex. And what this is, it's essentially basically it's a searchable database of Snapchat usernames with somebody's snap code, as well as somebody's snaps as well that they're taking. Think of it they basically say, think of it as a Pokedex for Snapchat.
Yeah, and I've heard about this one. I've seen it on Chat Snap and other related Twitter chats. I have not used it, but I'm aware that it exists. There was another one. I think this is similar to Ghost Codes. Am I right, Chris?
Yeah, I'm on it, but it's not an app. It's more like a desktop experience. And you can, the interesting angles, you can upload pictures of yourself, or people can upload pictures of you and then give you reviews. And I think when Ghost Codes came out, everybody jumped on it, everybody talked about it, and now I'm looking at my profile now. The last review was back in October, so people just kind of it's kind of dried up. Although it looks like they're getting a lot of people to sign up, which is cool. Chelsea Pites and Emily, and a lot of people I follow are top rated here.
So it's a directory essentially for snappers.
Good discovery tool. I mean, to get you at least up there, if you're interested in growing your following. Right.
Yeah.
Do you have one more for us that you can
one more
out
tool,
in a minute?
Actually, this is one of my favorite tools, one of my absolute favorite tools. And I'll kind of explain why. So the third tool is actually called CloudApp. And so I record a lot of I do a lot of screen recordings. I do a lot of animated GIFs. But one of the things that's always perplexed me is that, it's easy to record your screen, but hey, if you want to create an animated GIF, it always ends up looking really blocky, looking really bad, or the image in some cases is huge. So what CloudApp does is you can basically record your screen. You can take screenshots. You can take, create animated GIFs. It takes all those files. It's extremely fast. It puts them up in the cloud. But then every single item that you record, you can actually create a page, right? It creates it for you, a page of the item that you have recorded. So for example, let's say I have a customer service question come in and they're like, hey, I need some help with this. I'm not going to send them a written list. Hey, here's what you need to go do. I can just record my screen right now and send you, an animated GIF or send you a recording in a couple of seconds. And then I can actually measure each one of those pages with an item to kind of see what kind of traffic that they drive, depending on where I decide I want to share this at. So that's CloudApp for you. I personally, I think the one thing that really draws me to this is if you're going to, there's not necessarily a need to always write out like step 1, step 2, step 3. You could just create an animated GIF that shows somebody all of this really quickly, and save yourself some time. So that's what I use it a lot for. But that's the third app for the week.
Excellent.
Cool. Have you, Chris or Nick, have either of you tried this or CloudApp? I guess.
No, I was watching the video today after I saw your email about it. So it seems really cool. I don't really use a lot of like the Slack and things like that, but it seems really wild.
Yeah, it's something I might play with, but I don't know that in normal course of business I'd have a lot of use for it right now. But it's something that I think could be interesting to use.
There was something in the video about how when you get to see, they have a data tool so you can see who viewed your images, and if you think about if there are 10 people in your company and you're the lady in the video was like the CEO, she goes in there and knows that Nick, you're not looking at her stuff. Like it's really interesting.
And that's kind of the part that I think is just is really I think it in one sense, like if I'm somebody that is like, if I'm a small business owner, for instance, or I'm, customer service, or doing social customer service for somebody, I think that there's a lot of usefulness for this. I don't think it's applicable for everyone, but I think that, it has a lot of positive use cases, I think. So,
excellent.
That's a good find.
And that's it, guys. That wraps us up for the evening.
Definitely. And so I want to say, thanks a lot for coming on this week, Chris. I really had a chance to play around with, your hashtag spy tool, and I really like it. I think that it's a good tool. I'd love to see, if you can get Instagram data in there or Facebook data in there.
Yeah, I got caught out in June. Instagram closed their API. We might add some more. I keep hoping some of the newer networks will open up, like Musically, that are kind of hashtag dependent, and we'll see what we can do with that. But it's I'm having fun with it, and people enjoy it when they try it. So
and it's useful tool. It's very simple to use and quite useful.
So
had to be. I had to pay for it myself, so it had to be simple. So it's only 2 screens.
No, it's fantastic. It's really stable. It's really fast. You get in, you do your search, and you get out. You don't have to, you don't waste your time, getting lost doing a whole bunch of other stuff. So I think you did a great job with it.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you so much for having me on. I love it, and I'm going to try to make my Thursday night at 9 p.m. This will be my
awesome.
TV.
By the way, so what's the best place for people to find you or to get in touch with you if you want to drop that in the chat?
Yeah, absolutely. Twitter, and my 2 favorite platforms, Twitter and Snapchat. It's what I love. So yeah, just hit me up over there and get to know me there.
Good. Nick, it looks like you dropped, I guess, again. I think you're still with us.
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So I want to say thanks a lot, everyone, for watching tonight. If you want to subscribe to next week's show, we'll be up on the Facebook page at facebook.com/social chefs. But we also will be broadcasting on Huzza. Chris, Nick, it's been a blast. Hope you all have a great, weekend. Do you guys get the day off, I guess, tomorrow for the election, or?
No day off for the election.
Nope.
Or for the inauguration, I should say.
Right.
We don't want to go through the election again.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, thanks so much.
I'll be down there on Saturday.
That's good.
For a different tool. Anyway, thanks for having me.
Have a good night.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Yeah.